Ethiopia, a land of ancient history and vibrant culture, stands at a critical crossroads. While ambitious projects and national aspirations capture headlines, a silent struggle unfolds within its vital sectors, compounded by the shadow of ongoing conflict. Today, we pull back the curtain on a growing crisis, the increasingly desperate pleas of essential workers, particularly the doctors and nurses who form the backbone of the nation's healthcare system. Their voices, raised in the face of soaring living costs and stagnant wages, appear to be met with silence, while the nation grapples with internal strife. Why is this happening, and what are the potential long-term ramifications for the very fabric of Ethiopian society? The core of the issue lies in a stark and widening chasm, the relentless surge in the cost of living in Ethiopia, clashing with the stagnant and inadequate compensation of its essential workforce. Over the past few years, the Ethiopian Birr has experienced significant devaluation, making everyday necessities like housing, food, and fuel increasingly unaffordable. Imagine a doctor, having dedicated years to rigorous training and now working tirelessly to save lives, struggling to pay their rent or put food on the table for their family. This is the harsh reality faced by many healthcare professionals in Ethiopia today. The demand for a salary increase from healthcare workers is not a mere request for luxury. It's a fundamental plea for a living wage that reflects the current economic realities. Their dedication is unwavering, but their capacity to sustain themselves and their families is being stretched to its breaking point. This isn't just a personal financial burden, it directly impacts the quality of care they can provide. Burnout, stress, and the need to seek additional income can compromise their focus and dedication to their crucial roles. Ultimately, the health of the nation suffers when its healthcare providers are struggling to survive. The apparent divergence in government spending priorities has become a significant point of contention. While investments in national infrastructure and symbolic projects like grand palaces are often touted as signs of progress and national pride, their timing and scale raise difficult questions when juxtaposed with the unmet needs of critical sectors. The optics of investing heavily in such projects, while seemingly neglecting the urgent financial needs of healthcare professionals, create a sense of disconnect and misplaced priorities. Could these resources have been allocated, even in part, to address the salary concerns of essential workers, thereby boosting morale and ensuring the stability of vital public services? The frustration felt by healthcare workers could indeed be a harbinger of wider unrest. Teachers, social workers, and other public sector employees likely face similar economic pressures. Their dedication to educating the next generation and supporting vulnerable populations is equally vital to the nation's progress. If the concerns of one essential sector are ignored, it sets a dangerous precedent and could embolden others to voice their grievances through protests and other forms of collective action. A widespread sense of being undervalued and unheard can erode public trust and potentially lead to significant social instability. Beyond the immediate economic hardships faced by essential workers, a larger shadow looms over Ethiopia's potential for progress: the ongoing conflicts and instability in various regions. The engagement of groups like Fano and other armed factions not only results in tragic loss of life and displacement, but also severely cripples the nation's economy. Resources that could be invested in crucial sectors like healthcare, education, and infrastructure are instead diverted to security and defense. The climate of instability deters foreign investment, disrupts trade, and hinders the very economic growth needed to improve the living standards of all Ethiopians. Therefore, alongside addressing the urgent needs of its essential workers, the Ethiopian government faces a paramount task: actively pursuing peaceful resolutions and political dialogue with Fano and other fighting groups. Achieving a sustainable peace deal would unlock immense economic potential. It would create a more stable and predictable environment, attracting much-needed foreign investment, fostering domestic trade, and allowing the government to redirect resources towards vital development initiatives. Ultimately, the well-being of healthcare workers, teachers, and all Ethiopian citizens is inextricably linked to the establishment of lasting peace and security throughout the nation. Only then can Ethiopia truly harness its potential and build a prosperous future for all. Building on these potential solutions, let's delve deeper into what a truly successful path forward might look like. For instance, when we talk about salary reform, this isn't just about a one-time increase. It requires a sustainable framework, perhaps establishing an independent body composed of economists, labor representatives, and government officials to regularly review and adjust public sector wages based on inflation rates, the actual cost of living, and regional benchmarks. This would ensure fairness and transparency in compensation, providing essential workers with the financial stability they deserve. Similarly, simply increasing budgetary allocation for healthcare and education isn't enough. This needs to be accompanied by strategic planning and robust oversight to ensure these funds are used effectively and efficiently, directly reaching the frontline workers, upgrading facilities, and providing necessary resources. Transparency in how these funds are managed and utilized will be crucial in building trust and demonstrating a genuine commitment to these vital sectors. While statistics and economic analyses provide crucial context for understanding the scale of this crisis, it's the human stories that truly bring its profound impact to light. Imagine the dedicated doctor who works tirelessly through the night, saving lives and tending to the sick, only to return home and constantly worry about how to afford basic necessities like food and housing for their own children. Or consider the passionate teacher, deeply committed to shaping young minds and building the future of Ethiopia, who is forced to take on multiple side jobs, sacrificing their time and energy just to make ends meet. These are the everyday heroes, the backbone of Ethiopian society, whose unwavering dedication is being tested by economic circumstances far beyond their control. Sharing these personal experiences helps us move beyond abstract figures and truly understand the urgency and the devastating human cost of inaction. Their struggles are not just individual hardships, they represent a weakening of the very foundations of Ethiopia's progress and well-being. The underlying causes of this predicament are likely deeply intertwined and complex. Long-term economic policies. Analyze how past and present economic policies might have contributed to inflation and currency devaluation, impacting the real value of wages. Budgetary constraints and allocation mechanisms. Examine the processes by which the national budget is formulated and allocated. Are there systemic issues that lead to underfunding of crucial social sectors? Governance and transparency issues. Explore the role of transparency and accountability in government decision-making. Is there sufficient public discourse and input on budget priorities? External economic factors. Discuss the impact of global economic trends, debt burdens, and international financial pressures on Ethiopia's economic situation. Communication and engagement deficiencies. Investigate the channels of communication between the government and public sector employees. Are there adequate mechanisms for dialogue and grievance redressal? Impact of conflict on the economy. Detail how ongoing conflicts disrupt economic activity, displace populations, strain national resources, and deter investment. The disparity in compensation for essential workers compared to neighboring countries like Sudan and Kenya is particularly concerning. While these nations also face their own economic challenges, the apparent difference in how they value and compensate their doctors and teachers warrants closer examination. Could factors like differing levels of government revenue, varying priorities in public spending, or the influence of international organizations play a role in these discrepancies? This comparison not only highlights the potential for a brain drain of skilled Ethiopian professionals seeking better opportunities abroad, but also raises fundamental questions about the value placed on human capital within Ethiopia itself. Addressing this multifaceted crisis requires bold and innovative solutions, encompassing both economic and political dimensions. Comprehensive salary reform. Implement a data-driven salary review across the public sector, with a commitment to regular adjustments that account for inflation and the cost of living. This needs to be coupled with a sustainable funding mechanism. Increased budgetary allocation for social sectors. Demonstrate a tangible commitment to healthcare and education by significantly increasing their share of the national budget. This signals a shift in priorities and a recognition of their critical importance. Strengthening social safety nets. In the face of economic hardship, robust social safety net programs can provide a buffer for vulnerable populations, including struggling essential workers. Promoting economic diversification and stability, implement long-term strategies to diversify the Ethiopian economy, reduce reliance on volatile sectors, and stabilize the national currency. Fostering inclusive dialogue and participation. Establish formal and transparent mechanisms for dialogue between the government and representatives of public sector employees. This ensures that their voices are heard and their concerns are genuinely considered in policymaking. Investing in human capital development. Recognize that investing in the well-being and professional development of essential workers is a long-term investment in the nation's future. Actively pursue peace and reconciliation. Prioritize political solutions and peaceful negotiations with groups like Fano and other dissenting voices to establish lasting peace and stability. Reallocate resources from conflict to development. Once peace is achieved, strategically redirect funds currently allocated to military and security operations towards social and economic development initiatives. Engage in national dialogue. Foster a broad-based national dialogue involving various stakeholders to address the root causes of conflict and build a more inclusive and equitable society. Seek international partnerships. Explore opportunities for collaboration with international organizations and development partners to secure financial and technical assistance for strengthening the social sectors and supporting peace-building efforts. Reinforce the ethical and societal implications with more emotional appeal. At its core, this issue transcends mere economics and politics. It touches upon fundamental principles of fairness, justice, the value we place on those who serve our society, and the imperative of peace. When the very individuals entrusted with our health and the education of our children are struggling to make ends meet while the nation grapples with internal conflict, it reflects a deep societal imbalance. A nation's strength is not solely measured by its infrastructure or grand projects, but by the well-being and morale of its people, especially those who dedicate their lives to the service of others, and by its ability to foster peace and unity. Ignoring their pleas and the need for peace is not just a policy oversight, it's a moral failing with potentially devastating consequences for the future of Ethiopia. The unfolding situation in Ethiopia serves as a stark reminder that true national progress must be inclusive, equitable, and built upon a foundation of peace. The voices of its essential workers, particularly its healthcare professionals, cannot afford to be ignored any longer, and the pursuit of peace is not a separate issue, but an integral part of the solution. The government's response to this growing crisis, encompassing both economic reforms and a commitment to peaceful resolution, will not only determine the immediate well-being of these vital individuals, but will also shape the long-term trajectory of the nation's health, education, economic stability, and social harmony. The time for decisive action, for genuine dialogue, and for a fundamental reevaluation of priorities, both in resource allocation and in the pursuit of peace, is now. The future of Ethiopia's most critical sectors, and indeed the well-being of its people, hangs in the balance. This is more than just a news story. It's a human story that deserves our attention. What are your thoughts? How can the international community, concerned citizens, and all Ethiopians play a role in amplifying these voices and advocating for peace? Share your insights and ideas in the comments below. Please like this video to help spread awareness and subscribe for more in-depth analyses of critical global issues. Let's work together to ensure that the voices of Ethiopia's essential workers are finally heard, and that the path towards lasting peace and prosperity is forged.